Word of Whittenburg, brought to you by OnPitRoad.com. OnPitRoad.com, your source for all things motorsports. Today's Word of Whittenburg sound off, Jimmie Johnson in the last lap at the Roval. I have saw a lot of keyboard warriors out there the last few days talking about Jimmie Johnson and his decision to go for the win on the last lap of the Roval, which ultimately cost him his chance to progress to the next round of the playoffs. I would like to give a perspective of someone that may be sitting in the grandstands. If I'm a Jimmie Johnson fan and I've paid a lot of money to come to watch this race, maybe the only race I get to watch all year in person, I've bought merchandise, I'm a supporter of Jimmie Johnson. At that moment, as he's coming through the last lap, the last thing I want my driver to be thinking about is, well, if I just sit here and run second, I'll get enough points to get to the next round. The heck with that. What I want my driver to do is go for the win. Because ultimately, if you're a fan of a race car driver, are you more worried about that driver being on stage in Las Vegas collecting a check, or do you want to see him win a race while you're sitting there in front of him in person? I know what I would rather see, and I am about tired of the points in NASCAR. NASCAR at some point decided to place the biggest emphasis on points and not winning races, and that has hurt racing in general for the last few years. You know, back in the day, points didn't mean anything. Richard Petty won all of his championships. I want to tell some people he may be one of the greatest race car drivers in NASCAR, but some of those championships he won, there were several guys that didn't even run the entire slate, or the ones that did weren't the ones that he would have really been competing with if they had run the whole slate. You know, David Pearson several years, Bobby Allison, Kel Yarborough, they didn't run the whole schedule because they were more worried about trying to win races than championships. And I applaud anybody, any driver out there that'll put it on the line and try to win the race. 100 times out of 100, I want to see the guy go for the win. So to Jimmie Johnson, I applaud you, sir. And honestly, Johnson fans, I'm not sure he would have won the championship anyway this year, and I think he also knows that. He may not want to come out and say, well, this may have been, my only opportunity to win a race this year. This was definitely my best opportunity. It's been 50-some races since I've won a race. Johnson probably wasn't going to win the championship this year anyway. I don't blame him at all for going for the victory on Sunday at the Roval. And I did ask the living listener what they thought about the Johnson's last lap at the Roval, and here's what some of my commenters said. Dan James says on Facebook, I think Jimmie was not concerned about the playoffs or the points. He wanted to win first and foremost and let the chips fall where they may. JJ was not there to finish second at all. He wanted to be the first to win on the Roval. That's all that mattered at that moment was winning, and that's what racing is about, winning. I agree. Mike J. Chalkin Jr. says Earnhardt would have done the same thing. Go for the win. Gary Turner, race to win. Forget the points. They fall where you race to win. Once again, I agree with that comment. Dale Brancher says anybody that's been around racing knows you race to win, especially if you've been a proven winner, 7-time champ. I think that proves he's a winner. Just had a long dry spell, saw a chance to end it, and the car didn't stick. It's racing. On Twitter, Matt Miller at MGM Miller 17 says, while I understand going for the win, given his season, it was a short-sighted decision giving the risk reward. Go for an unlikely win or a guaranteed advancement. Not sure he's not trying to convince himself that he did the right thing when deep down he knows that he didn't. Rob Robinson at Rob Robinson 18 says, don't think he needed to stop because he wrecked and slid backwards and didn't advance position. That stop cost him the playoffs. Actually, NASCAR and some of the other media members have addressed that. They said he would have been penalized had he not stopped. So that's where it fell. That's what you think. I've let you know what I think. I don't like the points all that much anyway. I would rather see him go for the win. If I'm at the racetrack and I'm watching my driver, I would hate to know he backed off at the end of the race, hoping to make the next round of the playoffs instead of trying to win the race while I'm sitting right there watching him. That's what I think. This is the sound off today of the Word of Whittenburg. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned right here for more sound offs on the Word of Whittenburg via OnPitRoad.com. The Word of Whittenburg, brought to you by OnPitRoad.com.